Good evening, everybody. It's the Old Wolf here for another episode of the Witch and Wolf Wisdom, coming at you Tuesday, March 8th, 2022, from upstate Rochester, New York.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Yes, it is that time of the week again. Welcome, hey. Brother John. Hey, Jen. Good evening to everyone. So, yes, here we are again. As promised, I tried to deliver. Quick programming note. The thoughts, views, expressions, words, curses, etc., are just mine. My opinions and mine alone. Please don't try this at home. And if you do, you're pretty much on your own. Any other warning labels I should throw out tonight? I don't know.
Not for the faint of heart.
Trigger alert, trigger alert.
Yeah, definitely trigger alert.
Yeah, I'm going to go down a bit of a rabbit hole. I mean, you know, good
go down a rabbit hole.
Elements. For those of you that have been following, the music project has been moving ahead towards completion. I have been releasing completed tracks over the past couple of weeks. Tonight, I'm going to release another one. This will be Blue Jazz. And as with a lot of these tracks, these were some of the original tracks that I was writing. They do have deeper expressional elements. They go to shadow work. Demons obviously was about some childhood traumas and elements that carried over for me. Blue Jazz actually is like a coin. It has two sides to it. The first side of it is the piano instrumental piece that I wrote a couple of years ago when I first came up here to upstate New York. And it was a kind of cathartic, you know, letting it go moment, having come off, coming off the end of a brief but very intense fling. So rather than internalize it or, you know, go to some of the more fucked up places, I gotta put it into a song. That's what I do. I translate a lot of my shit into music, magic or otherwise. And it sat there in the archives, as they said, and I released it as an instrumental, and people seem to really enjoy it. And then I met my brother Matt, and Matt Brown now has become, you know, the lead vocalist on most, if not all, of the work that I am doing going forward, with the exceptions of songs that I'm writing with Shiya, which obviously, you know, are, you know, geared for a woman's voice, which I think you have a really beautiful voice. I really enjoy doing her Desperate Mind with you, and
wow,
you know, just as
out permanently on the internet, you can't take it back.
Yeah, it's out there. There's nothing you can do. But again, as mentioned, and we'll mention again, you know, we will be continuing to write other music. Some of it will be more meditative based. You and I have discussed a couple of Celtic theme type of folk variations / again, Reiki
Definitely
healing, spell, you know, whatever you want to call it, you know, a little bit of, you know, the classical elements that I do that, you know, obviously, and then projects like I've done with Brother John. And he just mentions he's writing his own song lyrics for some shadow work, so someone to help create the instrumentals and the vocals. Absolutely, brother. I thought we worked really well together on doing Time of the Phoenix. That will be one of the tracks on the album, obviously. And it's one of the things that I do. A lot of different things, you know, obviously. Shiya does her Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night types of things.
Yeah. Just can't get rid of me.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, you have your gift certificate, you got the mentorship circle, which, I mean, again, the mentorship circle is fucking incredible. You know, it really does.
We definitely
create a nice forum and a lot of different voices and perspectives and things.
Yes, and places to support each other.
What the fuck, Wednesday? Oh,
yes,
wow, look, see, I haven't seen some of these new graphics that you did.
That one?
No, I haven't seen. That's the first time I've seen it.
I thought I showed that one to you. Oh.
So yes, we do a lot of different things besides the music. Obviously, she has gift certificates for anybody who needs, private readings, private mediumship, spell casting, counseling, dream analysis, or a custom track, like we did for Derek and Lee. You know what I mean? So
that one was great.
We try and keep a wide range of things. A lot of it that we do also is for free.
Yeah.
We have also too the contest, and I really would like to say that some of the things that I have seen come through, and there it is right there.
Yay,
really
contest.
Powerful. Yes. It's going to be tough to pick a winner, but the contest is really simple. Write a poem, a spell, a mantra. Try and keep it under 50 words, but again, people do what they do, so if you got to go over 50 words, so be it. And keep it within a framework. Think in the context that we're going to create it into a song. Okay, there's no purchase necessary. You'll get songwriting credits and all that type of stuff. The grand prize is obviously having the track made into a song, a 30-minute private reading from either myself or Shiya, and a $25 gift certificate to Mystical Moons.
Yeah,
who is so graciously, working with us on this one. And everybody, the top 3 prizes will get that $25 gift certificate. Now, I mean, again, I can't say enough about Mystical Moons, so I'm going to jump right over to here, and here we go. Great stuff. Definitely, again, if this is your kind of thing, be it for gifts or, whatever ritualistic, I know it's your kind of thing.
I mean, crystals. You know how many people ascribe their crystal addiction to me? I hate to say.
Well, do tell.
I mean, I've got a lot of people. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this is a good crystal for you. Next thing you know, they get the one crystal and they're like, oh, yeah, that's awesome. And then they're like, oh, I need more crystals in my life.
More crystals.
You know what? I'll take responsibility for that shit. That's okay.
But anyway, not only is it really nice stuff, you know what I mean? Which again is huge in this day and age, you know what I mean? Because, and I hate to say it, and I don't want this to sound racist and stuff, but when, you've got fucking backroom hawkers from fucking China, selling fucking bullshit.
Yeah. Fake shit.
To have somebody like Suzanne, who actually, gives a shit. It's a relief. And again, I don't want that to be translated as a racial thing. It isn't. It's a purely economic type of thing. But even on top of that, just mention Shiya or myself, and you get a 25% discount.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, again,
Your first order. Just to get you hooked.
Well, but all good drug dealers do.
It's like, hey, man, try this shit at a special discount.
You know what? If you've got a crystal addiction, guess what? There's a crystal.
Hey, listen, there are worse fucking things in life.
There's a crystal for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the other things that's also going on is my brother Tattoo, Tony Rodriguez.
Oh, yeah.
A.K.A. A Broken Past, A.K.A. a Peppo Sticker Company, A.K.A. Under My Skin Tattoo Shop. And just a little side note, just a shout out to my brother Tony. Tony was voted the #1 Jersey Shore tattoo artist and tattoo shop by the Rat radio station in the Jersey Shore area, which is, pretty much the only rock station. The only real. But listen, I mean, again, it is the center of the music element down there, at least for rock in the Jersey Shore, you know what I mean, which covers the elements of like the Stone Pony and the Headliner and, some pretty well-known venues.
Yeah.
That are not, fucking dive bar types of things. So yeah, props to him.
I have to say that's very well deserved though from him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He busts his fucking ass.
He's had some national recognition in the past for his tattoo work
but he's jumping in.
Excellent.
He's jumping in. He and I actually been talking over the past week between, with Matt and stuff like that. So he's getting involved on some of the music stuff. We're going to talk later on down the line about, maybe doing a couple of one-off shows My brother Matt lives in Texas. My brother Tony lives in New Jersey. We're in upstate New York. Somewhere along the line, somewhere in between, who the fuck knows? I mean, we're going out to Texas at some point in time. We're going down to Jersey at some point in time. So who the fuck knows?
Thank God for the internet that, keeps us, even though we're miles apart, we're all one click away from a collaboration.
Yes. Well, that's a beautiful thing about technology today. Is, all this music is being done remotely, and we're collaborating it, obviously, in that context. But just, real quick, Tony's also the guy that does a lot of our promotional work. The sweatshirt that Ashbuck won from the last contest was designed and made by Tony and the Papo Sticker Company, which is, basically, Tony's side business for doing T-shirts, stickers,
quality
be
stuff.
it, bumper stickers or, stickers for kids,
and
magnet stickers.
Now?
Patches, you know what I mean, coffee mugs, I mean, you name it. He can pretty much take any graphical design idea, concept, and stuff like that and put it into whatever framework you want. And really
we're
cheap.
Supposed to come and see you too, Kathy, at some point.
In comparison to, what a lot of places. I got people down in Virginia, Kathy, so don't worry. That'll definitely be along our...
you to meet her husband, because he's
come down that
a
path.
drummer.
Music is universal, so I'm always down to meet up. And actually, the foundation that I belong to, we have a Virginia chapter, and we do shows in Virginia. So no coincidence. Maybe we can find a way to make a connection there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sabrina's like, I got the New York song going through your brain. Yeah, don't worry. We'll get you off of that real quick.
Yeah. Because you're premiering a new song tonight.
Yes, I am premiering a song. So
hang out.
Again, background with the song, again, it was kind of that, realization of a fling, a relationship, just kind of, the reality versus the illusion. One of the things I found, I know it for myself and from people that I've counseled and worked with over the years, relationships are really one of the biggest fucking stumbling blocks that we as humans contend with. How we interact with other people, be it sexually or otherwise. And a lot of our traumas and a lot of the dysfunctions come from elements of these relationships.
Yeah.
So, again, I had created the piece, never had written any words for it. It stood as a piano piece. It was really the first piano piece I had really done. I fucked around with piano and keyboard over the years, but I never really had put a piece together. So this was just kind of my way. And I'm not a piano player. So
well, for not
I want to make that clear.
For not a piano player, you sound like a damn piano player in the song.
Yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Just say it.
So I sent it to Matt, and I didn't tell Matt. I wanted Matt to translate it based on what he got off of the music.
Yeah.
One of the things, again, for me as a musician, and I think it's really important in just how I interact with people, and I recommend it to people across the board, regardless. When you allow people to express their perspective, their emotion, their feelings on a thing, it tends to create a better environment, a more flexible and more open environment. So I basically threw it to him and say, hey, listen, man, I don't have words for this fucking thing. Take it. Run with it. Let me know what comes out. And I have a sneaking suspicion that Brother Matt, definitely a high-functioning empath like a lot of us, because he took the fucking song and he wrote a storyline that pretty much, again, was the flip side coin, the mirror element of the music. Without knowing the story, without knowing anything more than the vibe, the energy from the music itself. And it's, again, why I always emphasize, how powerful music is. Music therapy is becoming more and more used and more popular, anything from, dealing with children with autism and epilepsy, behavioral elements, for aspects of dealing with trauma, PTSD, so many elements that music, again, it's an energy. And it can carry that energy, not unlike how, radio will pick up elements. And there's no, coincidence that these are all audio elements. Music is played through the radio.
Yeah.
So art, entertainment, life imitating all. It's all good. It's all good. But anyway.
All good, brother.
It was really not only inspiring, but it was uplifting for me to know that I didn't even have to fucking say anything. That he was able to listen to what I had written and
This
composed.
kid's blown me away time after time.
Well, you're not exactly a kid.
Well, how old is he? He's
I don't know. I mean, he's younger than me, but he's definitely, listen, he ain't no kid.
okay.
Definitely not a kid.
Well, this old soul is.
Yeah, no, listen, he's married. He's a great guy. I'll have him on the podcast at some time. We are definitely collaborating and conspiring
I don't know. I just kind
on lots more music.
I
Lots
can
more
picture
music.
him as like maybe in his mid-20s or something.
Nah, listen, again,
I don't
in
know.
this context, age doesn't really matter.
He's a nice old soul, and he's doing some awesome stuff.
Yes. So with that, again, before getting into some of the elements of the story and the concepts and stuff, I am going to premiere this track. And again, it is called Blue Jazz. It is something a little bit out of the stylistic element.
It's
For those of you who've
behind
heard
some
the
of
instrumental is still the same with the vocal lyrics. And again, I was really impressed on Matt can just really dance in and out of genre aspects. Because if you listen to Demons and then you listen to this track, you know what I mean? They are two really different types of approaches to it, but there are similarities in how he, as a singer, presents himself and, again, carries that energy the way, he expresses it. So, again, without further ado, going to throw up Blue Jazz for the first time tonight here for your enjoyment, and then we'll be back in a minute, so please enjoy.
I saw the writing on the wall, a rushed and frantic little scribble, the taste of sweet red and the scent of a cheap cigar. It lingers on her cherry red lips. Slowly the room turns, but we dance away the night. The feelings that I get when I hold you tight. The fever dream becomes reality. Above a chandelier, in the reflection of the glass, 1,000 figures swaying like the leaves in the wind. The touch of your hand in my own, it feels like I'm lost to this world. I can't let go of the electricity between us. They warned me about you, but I don't care. I'm in love with you. Slowly the room turns, the dance begins. The fever dream becomes reality. Above a chandelier, in the reflection of the glass, 1,000 figures swaying like the leaves in the wind. The touch of your hand in my own, it feels like I'm lost to this world. I can't let go of the electricity between us. They warned me about you, but I don't care. I'm in love with you. Slowly the room turns, the dance days fly and the nights run away as I hold you tight. This feels like a dream, but the fever dream is a reality. I saw the writing on the wall. It was such a lifetime ago. It was a warning to the world about you, but I didn't listen. These old eyes don't see like they used to see you. You took my life when you took my heart, but I'll never forget you, and the fever dreams remind me of you.
All right, so yeah, now we are actually back.
We've been talking this whole
Fucking
time.
microphone control settings. Yeah, I fucked up. Little bit of dead space. Everybody's like, hey, what the fuck's going on? It's all quiet out here.
Yeah, that's what we're just
So I don't know what got through, what didn't, so we'll go all the way back. For me, the framework of the story, the song, was a moment in time. It was a moment in time where the fever dream was a reality, but it was an illusion. It had its moment, it had its place, but the framework is that many of us get caught up. We see what we want to see, especially when it comes to relationships and the people that we choose to be intimate with. And it's only when shit gets burnt down around us that we actually, we learn. It's painful. It sucks. I mean, I don't think there's somebody out there that probably enjoys that type of pain. There are people out there that like having their balls smashed and pay good money for it, by the way, if anybody's looking for a little side gig. But hey,
Start
teach
your own
their own.
OnlyFans.
You know what I'm saying? That is what it is, right? Yeah, start up an OnlyFans where you just basically have strange random men come on and you smash their balls. I mean, I mean, in the scheme of, like, I'd rather, somebody do that than, bomb a city. No pun intended.
Yeah, I mean.
Mr. Putin.
Oh, jeez.
There's a future for you, Mr. Putin. You smash balls for rubles instead of smashing cities.
Somebody needs to smash his balls.
No, I think, well, listen, he's probably used to that, that deep, cold Siberian, he just probably needs a little love. Like, hey, listen, wouldn't it be really great if we could just solve the whole fucking problem by just taking them out and getting them laid?
That would be awesome,
I mean,
actually.
not to be sexist or sound like an asshole. I'm sure somebody somewhere would be willing to take one for the team. I mean, not me, of course.
Not me. 1, 2, 3, not it.
Somebody. Just saying. But yes, back to the,
Can we get Helga from Helga's House of Pain?
And again, it's to clarify certain earlier statements. Hello to the Goblin Queen, by the way. And hello, Deli and Chris and everybody else that's hanging and joining us tonight. Again, always appreciate the support. I don't want it, again, I don't want this to sound like, this, that, the other thing. I don't say it to be spiteful or hurtful, because again, the experiences that I went through, again, if I did not come up here to Rochester, if I didn't do the things that I did, if I didn't go through those elements, I would not have met Shiya. And Shiya and I have now been together for a year, and it truly has been the best foundation framework of a relationship that I've ever had in my life. And again, it took me 50 years to get to this point, but that's okay. I'm cool with that. It's a small price to pay. It's good. So certain things happen in our lives, especially in the framework of relationships.
Yes.
So the fever dream was a reality for me, but it was still illusion. It was a brief moment in time, and I bought into it. I mentioned this before. I violated my own code. I had a, I guess you could say a stereotypical midlife male crisis. Okay.
Yeah, you can call it.
And, I jumped into the pool.
We've all got to try our own.
There were piranhas in that
story.
pool. Yeah. I got eaten up. It happens. Listen, and again, I had a part to play in it. Always want to make sure listen, I believe in my heart, okay, and in my mind, that if we do not be humble with ourselves, honest with ourselves, all you're doing is like a dog chasing its tail. Nothing changes. You just spin in an alternate reality. And, listen, for some people, that's cool. They want to exist there, so be it. But it's not real. There's a case to be
made, though, that unless you see the illusion for what it is, then you'll never appreciate the reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chris has a good point. Past
listen, past absolutely shapes us into who we are, but a lot of times we have to go through these
dips.
Uncomfortable, sometimes painful, sometimes horrible fucking experiences to learn the lessons that we need to learn to be able to recognize certain things for what they are. So, again, out of that, Blue Jazz was born, you know what I mean? And, on the one end of the spectrum, you had, the cool lips and the, everything was beautiful and grand and we're having a great time. And then when the curtain fell down, he realized she was a fucking succubus draining the very life from his soul.
That's not dark at all.
And then it was just like, oh, fuck. I should have listened. I didn't.
The writing was on the wall.
The writing was on the fucking wall.
The writing was on the wall.
Now, again, in fairness to the real life scenario, she wasn't a soul-sucking succubus, okay? Mm-hmm. It just was what it was. certain elements of things that I perceived obviously were not correct or real. And then I'm sure in her perspective that certain elements of things, didn't, jive or click for her. It happens. Things go bad. It's easy to point the finger and say, you did this, you did, and again, in the end of the day.
The way I kind of always talk about, sometimes like a twin flame relationship or something like that. Some relationships are only meant to be for a time.
Right.
And they bring us to where we need to be. And we grow.
Again, every situation is unique. Sometimes, and I'll use the context analogy of, and in this particular case, I will speak ill of the dead.
Where are we going with this?
Of my dead wife.
Oh, God.
Okay. Yeah. Can you tell he's got issues? Trigger. But in fairness, there are certain things. There are elements, actions that people do that, in my mind and in my heart, in many degrees, are unforgivable. When you have somebody who is physically abusive.
Yes.
If you're in a marriage and you have somebody who constantly cheats or belittles you, or again, any of these abusive type of patterns and stuff, I believe that once certain lines, are crossed, that, then they are to fucking blame.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In that particular, in those scenarios, no, listen, granted, we choose to stay in them, and granted, we have a part, but let's not confuse the 10 or 15% versus the 70, 80, 90% bullshit. Because again, I don't believe in putting the weight, especially when people are being victimized.
Yes.
Be it through subtle gaslighting or through outright fucking manipulation. You know what I mean? And those manipulations and, those variables will change, In my particular context, when I came here to, Rochester, we had a plan. We had an agreement. We had a contract, for lack of a better way. And not even 3 months in, it's like, no, fuck you, peace out. And now granted, to some degrees, I drew that line in the sand because, because it was one of the first conversations that you and I had when we started dating. There are only a couple of lines you can't cross with me. And one of those lines is my child, my son. You know what I mean? Don't try and, create not even so much for it. Don't try and create a negative context. And the simple analogy was, my boys are still with me because I believe and they believe that is the best context scenario.
And it really is.
And she wanted to go jet setting. She didn't actually really want to be here. So I was like, I that's not happening. And, boom, the rest, as they say, was history.
Now again. That's all I'm saying.
We all bring certain elements to the table. That's why we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be humble about certain elements. You know what I mean? It is never, again, completely a one-sided thing. Even if just the analogy is that we choose to ignore or we choose to make excuses for a particular element or a person or a situation or whatever that case may be.
Oh, the other thing is if you're looking at empaths in general in a relationship, we do tend to we draw sometimes people who need fixing to us rather than somebody who will support our energy. We'll
absolutely
kind of want to fix somebody. So, and we see
listen,
that maybe love can heal them.
Sometimes, and this is,
Hey, Jamie.
One of those unfortunate realities. Not everybody's situation, but I know the situation, has happened and will continue to happen. Sometimes, for a lot of us, especially as empaths, having somebody is better than being alone. And it is a dangerous kind of paradox because, again, we will allow behavioral patterns and elements that we normally wouldn't accept in any other particular scenario, except this. Oh, he's a really nice guy, and he fucks me really good.
It's not all.
But he beats me on Thursday and Friday nights if, I don't make the sandwich. You know what I mean? You see where I'm going. And again, I don't mean it to be dismissive or to be facetious, you know, in regards to like domestic violence and shit like that, because there is no excuse for it. There's a zero tolerance element as far as I'm concerned,
Right.
when it goes to that type of shit. But, you know, if we're really honest about it, how else do we fucking talk about it? You know, to some degrees, we have to put, at least in my mind, some comical spin on it, because it's so fucking dark and horrible. How do you explore and talk about it without losing your fucking mind if you don't? You know, it's like trying to snort 158% cocaine. You got to cut that shit first before you snort it, or you're going to fucking die. And I'm not advocating snorting cocaine, but if that's what we got to do to fix this shit, fucking let's cut the lines and get it over with. I just don't want to die in the fucking process. But again, all joking aside, it's not easy to talk about these elements, especially when, you know, we have patterns of bad relationships. You know, I hear that theme come up a lot, and I thought that of myself, you know, and it probably really was the case. You know, looking back at my own personal elements, there were good things in it. You know, it wasn't all just a nonstop nightmare. But, and it's the big 500-pound butt crack in the room.
Ouch.
So much of it was fucking dysfunctional. And, you know, despite my best efforts at trying, you know, to be a good guy, a good husband, a good father, you know, I had to accept that there is very little I can control besides my own actions. You know what I mean? And it's frustrating. It's maddening, especially when we're trying to convey certain things. Why don't you love me? Brother Johnny, yeah. You know, we confuse love with pity. Yeah, listen, again, there is a proverbial laundry list of shit that you can just pull out, plug in, play, swap out. And that's where, again, it gets, you know, sketchy, because we're all unique. So our experiences.
Get to the point of where you feel like you need to fix somebody is about the point that you should look at maybe not being in a involved relationship.
But again, it's also about context.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody constantly forgets to wipe their ass after they shit, I'm sorry, I'm going to try and help you. I'm going to try and change you. I'm going to be like, yo, listen. Okay, we've got this thing. It's called toilet paper. I'll help you out. Like I had. I'll show you how to bend over. We'll get up in there together. I don't mind taking a little shit in the name of love. Okay?
I'm going to remember this.
There is a context. And I listen, and I hate to say this, but, you know, but sometimes truth is truth. This is also the framework of strength in numbers, because none of us are fucking perfect.
No, but
you know what I mean. And you know, granted, you got to look at motive and certain lines, right? Exactly.
Right. There are certain.
But this is where communication is beautiful.
Yes.
Where you can have a conversation. You can be like, hey, maybe you don't smell the smell of shit, and I don't want to offend you, but maybe we should have a conversation.
Are you trying to tell me something?
No, I'm not trying. I'm just saying.
Just
saying in the framework.
Having an issue with shit.
Well, no. Let's segue into. That was pretty shitty.
That was shitty.
Let's segue.
I'm dying.
Let's segue into the more serious element about communication.
Yeah,
and why don't you share about your story about from the other day, from how you were feeling and everything, you know, the blah blah blah.
I mean, I basically, you know, we as empaths, we love deeply, we care deeply, not just in, you know, romantic relationships, but other relationships, friendships, people that you consider close, like a sister or soul family or stuff like that. And I've had a friend that recently has been dealing with 6 months of being in a hospital from COVID and has recently gone home. And, you know, I was trying to help her out and over there and helping her with certain things, and been over there to kind of work with her on several things a few times. And I felt very helpless to be able to actually fix the real problem. And that started putting me into a funk, because I felt helpless. I couldn't fix this. I wanted to go in. I want to fix this. I want to make a difference. I want to fix it. And it started putting me into a little bit of a depression, to where I was feeling really down. And I didn't realize that was the correlation. I just realized I started feeling depressed. So I tell the wolf, and he's like, well, right about the time you started feeling depressed is right when your friend came home and you were over trying to help her. And I'm like, you're kind of right, and kind of helped me work through that depression. But sometimes that helplessness, when we can't help somebody else, can really impact us on an emotional level.
Absolutely. And that was a real, very well said. Granted, it was like the 12-second variation of the 2.5-hour conversation that we had. Granted, we're not going to have the same 2.5-hour conversation.
We're only on.
But I'm going to fill in some of the blanks for those of you in
there. What
in the studio audience tonight. Well, no. Again, not that, but it's the little details sometimes.
Okay.
Okay. In this particular framework context, you being the type of woman that you are and how you interact with people, you are like most high-functioning empaths, great at helping other people, not so great at helping yourself. So you tend to sometimes, and we've talked about this because we actually communicate.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. That you wear masks. You hide certain elements of it because you don't want those elements to carry over and influence on other people. That you recognize that energies carry over.
I am the worst at masking and hiding my own pain.
Right.
You are really good at seeing through that fucking mask, though.
Well, it's not like I'm psychic or something.
But yeah, hey, Melissa.
But in the context of the conversation, I hadn't really even noticed that you were off even, per se. So in this instance, I wasn't reading it initially.
When I told you I was feeling a depression, you were like,
because I didn't read it as a depression. Okay. But here's the unique element here. When we go through things, our perspective, again, it's like being in the middle of the storm. You can't see things clearly. You don't have an accurate perspective. We need people on the outside to be able to give us a little bit of that insight. And initially in our conversation, she couldn't explain.
I couldn't explain why I was feeling that way. Yeah.
Was driving you. Why are you depressed? Is there something wrong? No, everything's great. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. We went through the list. It's just like, okay, this is good. All right. So we started breaking it down. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember exactly what set us into the conversation about the energy carryover, but something in our conversation kind of led us to energy transference. And then I simply said to her, I said, okay, to the best that you can remember, when did this start? And then we narrowed down the time frame, and the time frame correlated with you going over there and unfortunately being exposed, and that trigger of, as you described it, the helplessness created that entity, the depression. You know what I mean? And that's how quickly and how easily it can happen.
And the only reason I recognize this because I'm very self-aware, and I've used to being able to notice when my insecurities are getting the better of me, or when my emotions are getting the better of me, and I work actively against it. But when it went on for darn near a week and it wouldn't stop, it's like, okay, I need to tell you that this is going on with me. I need to be transparent, which again is contrary to what somebody's going through depression. They don't normally want to come out and say, I'm depressed.
Right.
And so it's, again, that communication thing to where you open up and you vocalize it, and then somebody else, strength in numbers, can help you narrow things down and figure out where it's coming from. And then once I started recognizing the energy, I've been starting to feel better. I'm like, okay, now I know what's driving it. Now I know ways I can deal with it and combat it and change my energy around. And it's like, yeah, I'm understanding this now.
And again, the core component in this is that not only communicating, words, exchange of, but empathy in looking at it from somebody else's perspective.
Yeah.
Putting somebody else's feelings into the equation, into the mix.
Yep. Now, you brought something up I'd like for you to bring up here, is that we were talking the other day about communication is a great starting point for a relationship, but you had a really nice diatribe that you went on about it's more than just communication. I'm curious if you want to go down that rabbit hole again.
Well, why don't you explain your interpretation of it, and then I may feel compelled to.
Well, that you mentioned that, yes, communication is like a starting ground for a relationship, but there's other elements that need to be at work in order to make a good relationship. It's the teamwork, the working together, the listening to each other. It's not just, and having that common ground, that kind of context with one another. I think you were explaining some, is that, creating that.
It's, there are many pieces to the puzzle. Now, granted, everybody has a little bit different interpretation of what they need, what they want, what works for them, what doesn't work for them. So,
what I want,
I always like to qualify, this is just me. Okay, this is what works for me. I don't, there's no money back guaranteed. I'm sorry.
No monetary value.
I try and be honest, you know what I mean, to the best I can, but I always try and follow up with hey, listen, you got to look at the specific dynamics. Mm-hmm. But yes, there has to be many elements, and communication isn't just about talking. Communication is about listening. Communication is about empathy. Communication is about being able to change our perspectives, our opinions, and even to some degrees our conditioning, regardless of any other framework. Now, again, that doesn't mean you have to give up your faith, you have to give up your life, you have to sign on the fucking dotted line or choose between the blue or the red fucking pill or any stupid shit like that. It just means it has to be in play. You have to be open-minded.
Yes.
Okay, you have to look at it in each situation. Now, again, especially in the framework of relationships, most of that goes right out the fucking window once the high-end emotions come into play. So, for me, as a fucking empath and having had bottled a lot of that shit up, that first kind of foray into it was, was like a fucking, like a couple of stars colliding. It was chaotic at best. Okay. And I knew better. I knew better, and I still chose to play with the fire.
Well, because sometimes the fire seems exciting.
Well, not just so much the fire, the choices that I felt, that at least where I was at that point in time, was that it was better than being left to my own devices. This was the lesser of the two evil. And again, we'll create the illusion sometimes just to get us out of a fucking worse situation. So, you know what I mean? Again, it becomes this kind of catch-22, whereas, you look at a particular element, you look at a situation, you look at a relationship, or whatever the fucking case may be, and then you look at the alternative on the other side of the coin until you get that perspective, retrospect, coming out the other end. You can't appreciate it for what it is.
I completely agree. And sometimes when you're in a bad situation or you're in a point, we will latch on. Latched on to a toxic friend that, I thought was not toxic, and thought maybe, okay, this could work out, and then ended up being
and also, as you said, again, we try and fix people.
Yes, and we try to fix
that
people.
That was definitely part of the element, part of my part in it, is that I was trying to create an element based off of my perceptions, based off of my opinions, based off of what I believed things should be. Mm-hmm. And even though I believed my motive was good and it was pure, I still went outside the context. And we all know what happens, when you, as you said, when you play with fire, you get fucking burned.
The fire's
but sometimes we need to get burned, to remind us that this is what it is. Again,
I think Sabrina asked an excellent question. How do you decide who's good for you and who's not?
Time is the only variable that I have found consistently,
Yes.
because it is, a paradox. If you don't try, you'll never know. So you're always running the risk initially. I mean, you can do
You can do
what is
things like
referred to
looking
as
at-
due diligence.
Yes,
you
check
can
finding their
yeah,
character.
you can look into different elements of things. You know, one of my rules of thumb, and this is what I teach, and I believe in it wholeheartedly. Words don't mean anything without action to back them up. Again, I say this all the time. You can teach a parrot to recite scripture. It doesn't mean a fucking thing. So if there is not action behind the context of the words are empty, aka they are meaningless, and many times they are lies. So you look at actions.
And
You know
some
what I
people
mean?
can keep the actions up for a short time, but the truth will always out.
The truth will always come out.
Yes.
The other element, and it's a simple one, and it's unique again to every individual. Be honest with yourself about what you like. Okay?
Yeah.
If you like guys with beards and small dicks, that's your thing. That's cool. Be honest with yourself. If you're like some people we know, if you're into beaver asshole, hey,
Oh God, it
you
was
know,
gonna come. I knew it was gonna
be true to thyself.
Yeah.
But yes, honesty is always important. It's always key. All right? And as long as you're being honest, you know what I mean, you have, as they say, the high ground. Now, everything else from there is the variance.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Is the aspect of time and interaction. Obvious little things. You know, common frameworks.
One of the first things that I say to look for, Sabrina, is character. Okay? You can tell a person's character by how they interact with the people around them in their lives and how the people in their lives interact with them. How do they treat servers and the people who are quote unquote in the subservient positions, like the janitors, the servers, the people who are
Little
serving them, the
things,
little
yeah.
people, quote unquote. How do they treat those people? How do they treat their family members? How do they treat kids? How do they treat animals? You know, how do they speak? Are they showing good character? For me, the good character was the first thing I fell in love with about you. You know,
Well,
and
let's not go there.
Oh no, I'm going there. You get the fuck over it.
I don't want to be able to show mommy. I want to stay home and make cookies with you.
But
As Aunt Pixie says, yes, what goes on the wash must come hang eventually.
eventually.
You know what I mean? So yeah, you can only dance around certain elements. Now, again, here is the flip side with it. Some people are skilled in the art of deception.
Yes.
Okay? Weaponized empathy is illusion magic. Okay? That's really where illusion magic comes from, is being able to manipulate people's emotions, because that's what drives their perceptions.
Yes.
How they perceive, aka see things.
Perception is that person's reality.
So again, depending upon that element, sometimes you have to, again, take time. Here's the other,
They're behind closed doors, how they're going to behave in some regards.
well, listen, here's the other pile of elephant shit in the room, is that unfortunately, especially over time, people do change.
Yes.
And they don't always change for the better.
No.
It doesn't make sense. It's not fair. It's not fun. It's not right. But sometimes we have to look at an element simply for what it is. Now, you were talking earlier about, one of the important tools is look for patterns.
Yes.
Why don't you talk about that?
Well, I mean, basically you have some people who, like you say, are skilled in the art of deception. And the closer that somebody gets to that person who is really skilled in that art of deception, the more you're going to see that certain people have fallen out of their lives time and time again. People don't stick around in this person's life because you get close enough into that person that they go off and they're like, I'm not going to put up with this shit anymore. Or they react differently to that person because of who they've proven to be over time. So you can, even if that one person's being deceptive towards you, can see the patterns on how others react around that person to see how their long-term behavior is. Do they have the long-term friends that are hanging around and stuff like that? Or what do they do every day, kind of thing. And just kind of look into seeing that can tell you a lot about a person, whether they're trying to hide it or not.
And they're little things, again, that become important, especially if you're looking or shooting for a long-term, quote-unquote, relationship. You have to have that commonality to many degrees. If every time your partner's mouth opens, you're fucking cringing and running for the fucking hills, you might have a problem.
Yeah.
you need to take a look at. Now, the other thing, and this is the biggest, like, Godzilla size steaming pile of shit in the room.
That's a big pile of shit.
That really has to be, addressed is sexuality.
Yes.
And sexuality fucks everything
talk
up.
about
Let me
sex,
tell you,
baby.
No, let me tell you, baby. Okay.
About sex. Okay.
The boys, they don't know what they're doing.
I don't know.
They're just swinging their dicks around, and they're like, "Hey, look at me!"
The blood just goes from
It's
the head all
fucking
the way
crazy. Okay, it's fucking crazy. Now again, everybody's interpretation on sexuality is different. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that, unless it crosses particular types of lines. And we don't need to get into those lines. We're going to keep it more into the positive end of the spectrum and kind of, go into how does this fit into the relationship element. Certain things are what they are. If the only thing that attracted you to a person was sex, then you should just leave it at sex and don't try and have a fucking relationship.
Friends
if
with
you're
benefits.
friends with, no, it's not even friends with benefits. It's just, it's just sex.
Yeah.
Okay? More times than not, people confuse emotions and sex and emotions, and it's just it's a disaster.
Well, you know why? It's because that's a point where people feel like they're the most vulnerable. So they feel like, hey, if I can open up sexually, maybe I can open up emotionally, and it doesn't always work.
Here's the news flash. Sex actually is a drug, because the whole process within sexual interaction releases a little thing called
Dopamine and
you got endorphins and dopamine.
Yeah.
You got all types of chemical shit that goes down. That, let me tell you, fucking bathtub Dexter's laboratory pharmacists have been spending entire fucking lifetimes trying to figure out and synthesize.
Baby. Ooh.
Anybody that's ever busted an orgasm that literally split the sky in half, you know what I'm talking about. Okay?
And people
Through conversation.
kill for a drug like that.
And listen, people kill each other for fucking old sneakers. So let's not kid ourselves. But it's besides the point. Sexual energy is an incredibly powerful dynamic that, again, will scramble everything else around it. Okay? And it will. It will scramble fucking logic, sanity, basic reasoning skills. People will do the most insane, ridiculous shit in, quote, in the name of love. Okay? And if you haven't done it yourself, I'm sure everybody here at least knows somebody that has.
Yeah.
And if you had the unpleasant experience of watching that slow motion train wreck,
it's like you want to look away, but you just can't.
It makes a lot of people just be like, yeah, fuck it, I don't want to go anywhere near it. And people,
Freud has a point. People are all about sex sometimes.
And it does translate into some of our, and no coincidence, it's a good segue, it does translate into our earlier experiences.
Yes.
Now, this isn't to say that everybody wants to fuck their mothers and their fathers, but let me tell you, and I hate to say it, and you and I have had this conversation, we had it the other day, I've met more women than not that have fucking daddy issues. And I'm not just talking basic daddy issues, I'm talking
hardcore dysfunction.
They can't get off unless it's, basically a incestual role play into some alternate Game of Thrones reality. And that's cool. Don't get me wrong. If that's where your head is at, that's fine. But
be aware.
When people don't understand it, and then it becomes, some of it becomes twisted into the deeper, darker element, you know what I mean? Women become objectified because of aspects of pornography and just generations of misogyny and stupidity.
Yeah.
And then men, as boys, are, conditioned into these frameworks of, conquer and don't show emotion, because that's weakness. And if you're weak, you know what I mean, you won't get the proper pussy, and you'll just be,
You're only a man if
you'll be a fucking bus boy. Yeah.
No, you're only a man if you can stick your dick in it.
Well, there's that too.
There's that.
Sabrina says, I have a question. How do you ask a friend for money back loan a friend money? I really don't have, and now she give more and more
Never
time.
loan money to friends and expect it back. If you give money to friends, just, if you get it back, bonus. If you don't, well...
Listen, this is the adage. This is the thing. If you give the money, you can't expect it back.
Right.
No matter what anybody says, because that is the reality. Now, you have every right to draw that boundary line and say, because of such, that you don't do it again. And that is a fair and honest boundary to say, hey, listen, I lent you money. You haven't paid it back like we originally did, so I'm sorry, I can't lend you money again.
Now, the next
But
thing,
don't make yourself fucking crazy, you know what I mean? Because it is what it is.
if you draw a hard line on the getting the money back, then chances are you're probably going to say bye-bye to the friendship, because then your friends start dodging you to avoid getting the money back, or becomes resentful that you actually want it back and you don't understand their situation.
Yeah, again, money is one of those.
Yeah. Only loan out what you can afford to lose.
Yeah.
But
Thank
in
you,
this
Aunt
case,
Pixie.
yes. In
And
this
Deanna, hey, it's good to see you, hon.
Hi,
Welcome.
Diana. Where's my fanfare? Damn it.
Oh, God.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But Sabrina, the best thing you can do is, if this is truly a friend, say, look, I'm really struggling right now. I loaned you money I didn't have. Whatever you can do to get at least some of that back to me right now would be really helpful. I would greatly appreciate it.
But this is a great analogy and a great example.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a romantic context, but it is a
Right.
great example within the framework. All relationships are related in the simple context. It's how we're interacting with somebody who is not ourselves.
Yes.
Unless you're having a relationship with yourself, and that's a whole nother conversation for another podcast.
I mean, if you see me talking to myself, I'm just having a conference with my spirit guides.
Well, no, I meant having a sexual relationship with yourself. But again, we digress. Anyway, with that being said, it's always a variant. You know what I mean? There's always that subtle, one person sees it one way, another person sees it another way. So those boundaries, and that's the key component, the key word.
Boundaries.
Those boundaries that,
Excuse me.
depending upon the nature of the relationship, sometimes we can feel comfortable, but empaths tend to have a hard time setting boundaries because we tend to give a shit more about what other people think
Yeah.
than actually what's good for ourselves. And this is
Truth.
one of the common variables. Granted, the faces and the places are always different because they're unique to the individual. But as the old Zeppelin song says, the song remains the same.
Yeah.
And it does, and it plays out. And that's where, again, redundantly, all these squares make a circle, back to the beginning. Strength in numbers, our
Yes.
perspective, our shared experiences.
And that actually goes into how we can help decide if we're picking good people in relationships. Strength in numbers. If you have good friends that can help you get a different perspective on a romantic relationship that aren't just going to be the yes gals, or fuck him, man haters, or whatever. You want to find people who are just honest and real that can give you their perspective. You can go up to them, hey, what do you think about this dude that I'm dating? Yeah, he was kind of an asshole to me. I don't know what. Oh, really? He was? Yeah, okay.
The common denominator that I will say this as a man, Sabrina, and as a father, as a daddy, and no pun intended, I've danced on multiple ends of the spectrum of this whole daddy thing, no joke. Again, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus and name names, but it was definitely one of the component variables in my segue to an actually healthy relationship here with Shiya. So we'll just leave it at that. But the thing that I have found, and it seems to be the common denominator for all of us, our frameworks, our base constructs for how we interact with people, relationships, come from the people that are closest to us, aka usually by default our parents, our mother, our father, the people that raise us.
Yes.
So depending upon the nature of that relationship, and I'm not saying and suggest that every woman that has daddy issues means that their fathers fucked them. A lot of times, unfortunately, and this is what I was getting to earlier, emotional context and sexual context get confused. They overlap.
Yes.
Sometimes for a reason, sometimes for not. everybody, again, is a little bit different because some people actually do have real issues. They were molested and raped,
Yeah.
or they were abandoned. Both those variables can trigger the same conceptual daddy thing.
Or controlled.
Now, again, that also translates into a whole lot of other, again, tangents. So the unique elements of, and you talk about this all the time, you know, we have to, within our own shadow work, we have to explore the elements of our experiences, of our lives. It's the only way to understand, to find, as you said, the patterns, to find the common elements, to say, okay, this led to this, and this is and again, many times we need somebody else because, again, we're so emotionally compromised by certain aspects.
Well,
We can't see what the fuck's right in front of our face.
I'll speak to my own quote unquote daddy issues that I can, they were not sexual in nature. They were in the fact of, always feeling not good enough. So that created a landscape of insecurity for me. And still, sometimes it will pop back up and rear its ugly little demonic head saying, Shiya, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. And so I'm constantly trying to prove myself to myself and other people when I'm in that mindset of those issues to somehow feel like I'm good enough. It doesn't always, like you say, express itself in a sexual way. For some people it does. Some people, they might not feel good enough, so they go out and have sex with multiple partners so that they can feel attractive.
And
whatever.
you know what? And I want to say this again, I'm not promoting it per se. I'm not saying, hey, just go out and fuck people randomly. However, if that's what a person needs in their life, for whatever reason, okay, it doesn't have to reflect that person's character per se. Because listen, we all go through tough times. We become lonely. We need elements of things. We need physical context, be it sexual or otherwise. We
More
need
songs
comfort.
have been written
We
about
need security.
this.
Yeah, listen, more songs have been written.
than any other topic
You know what I
in
mean?
the world.
I always, with men, I always, warn them in the simplest aspect that anything you do today theoretically can become the ghost of pussy past.
Yep.
And, when them ghosts come a-calling, it ain't fucking pretty.
No.
You know what I mean? But I say that jokingly, but also to emphasize the concept of consequences.
Yeah.
That when you treat, in this case, women like objects, when you approach certain elements of things without regard for the emotional cost, for that carryover and stuff like that, inevitably it becomes now a case of karma. That this now becomes a conditioning element that will become reinforced. And I can't tell you how many times I've encountered men in recovery 40, 50 years down the line that have completely blown their lives up because they spent their whole lives living in the bullshit illusion reality for it eventually, and here it is, guys, okay?
There it is.
It's not a question of if, it's just a question of when.
Yeah.
When does it come crashing down?
Truth will out. And
Okay.
all, things always
Listen.
have a way of falling out of that closet no matter how much you try to cram the door
and
shut.
some of it is, again, societal. That's why we have the elements of, the Me Too movement, why we see the cancel culture.
Yeah.
I've talked about this before to different degrees. And, again, I've said it before and I'll continue to say it again. I'm glad that now there are consequences for just pulling your dick out randomly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, you would have.
And that's not a shot at the dick guy who you're telling me.
I was telling you about Dick Guy the other day.
Come on, guys. Come on, listen, man. That shit's old. It's played out. You like the first 500 guys that did it. I'll let it ride because it was a new thing. Nobody had done it before. All of a sudden, their dicks all over the place. You woke everybody up. You shocked everybody. Everybody talked about it, but it's old now.
Yeah, rarely.
Women don't really want it, and
No.
trust me, if they do, they know where to get it.
And they'll tell
And
you
it's
they
not
want
you,
it.
man. I'm sorry,
They'll
but it's
tell
not.
you they want it. Women don't necessarily like
It's not how
dick
it works.
itself for its looks. They like what it does, and they like who it's attached to.
Here, let me share some inside information.
It's like a
Do you know what, guys? You know what it really does? It tells other guys that you're really fucking gay, and you're afraid to come out of the closet, and you really want the cock. Okay.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's great.
There's a classic movie. Okay. Jim Carrey, Me, Myself, and Irene.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And no, Diana, don't just grab the pussy. I don't give a fuck if Trump does it. I don't care who does it.
Don't
Now-
grab the pussy.
However, I will foot that with that if Diana wants to go out and basically say, hey guys, grab my pussy, that's your right. And I
That's her
completely
consent.
back it up and I fucking endorse you 110%. You have every right. But that's your call, not Trump's.
Yeah.
No man has that right.
No.
I ain't fucking stupid. And I'm telling other guys not to be stupid. But yes, as I was getting back to that. Guys, when you do that type of shit, all it really says is that you can't get around your sexuality, okay?
Yep.
And I'm sorry. I don't care if mom, as the sergeant would say, I don't give a fuck if mommy was fucking cruel to you. You fucking twinkle-toed communist piece of fucking walrus shit. Okay? Put your dick back in. Okay?
Yep.
Man the fuck up.
Yep.
Okay? And do what every other red-blooded American man does. Go find a woman and go pay for it.
Oh my
Pay your
God.
fucking dues, man.
Yep. Oh my God. Where are you
But seriously,
there?
we live in a world that just, again, if a woman wants that, there are places for that, all right? I'm sure somewhere online there's a place that are just basically where you can just pull your dick out. Now, in my day, they were called glory holes. I don't know what the fuck they are online now, but I'm sure there's an online equivalent. And I've heard that there's like jerk off places you can go,
OnlyFans.
Granted, here's the problem.
Fat Life.
It's just going to be about fucking 13,000 guys from all around the world, all with their dicks out with you. So,
so they can get their gay fantasy there.
as we kind of came full circle, man, you're in the fucking closet.
Now, I do
Come
have
out.
something I
It's
want to
okay.
say.
Listen, it's okay to like the cock if that's what you want, man.
Yep.
Don't live a life of, repression and
You don't need to
fear
repeat
and
yourself.
disconnect.
Yes.
Because my girl doesn't want to see your dick, dude.
No, I really don't.
Okay? I'm sorry.
I want to say something to Sabrina.
Is that wrong? Am I just being...
No, because I didn't. You saw my reaction.
I know.
Like,
Listen, it is
you
fucking
saw
horrible.
my reaction. I'm like, what the fuck? Sabrina, you're telling a story about how, your friend says she needed it for rent and blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. If you don't have the money, don't lend it. I don't care. Everybody's got a sob story. Everybody. I got some sob stories.
We all
that
go
would
through hard
break your
times. Listen,
fucking
and
heart.
listen, if you can and you want to be compassionate,
If you
there's nothing
can,
wrong with it.
Fine. But don't set yourself on fire just to warm
Right.
somebody else up.
It's a double-edged sword.
If you have a fire that they can come and sit down next to you and enjoy your fire with you, then great. But you don't need to be setting yourself on fire just to warm someone else up.
And Sabrina, to answer your question as to why send a little dick... They're not always little dicks, honey, either. That's the other terrifying part. But anyway, it's beside the point. Why dick pictures in general? Why people...
Why do people send
It's not so much that, and listen, there are people that are turned on by erotica. Okay? I'm not going to lie. I see Shiya naked. Yeah, I like it. I'm sorry. I'm not going to apologize for that.
Bow chicka wow wow.
Wow. But here's the other side of the coin. A lot of this is conditioning, and I say this as a man. So for men, and not all men, but a lot of men have been conditioned to believe that women will instinctually just respond. You know what I mean? It's like, like a hummingbird. They don't sing a song. They just pull your dick out, and then all of a sudden you're going to want it. Now, here's the paradox. there are some women that do like that. So what ends up happening is this: men assume that all women are like that. And
they
you know,
saw it in a
there are a
porn
couple, well, listen, there are a couple theories. Some of it is desensitization because of pornography. Some of it is cultural, obviously, depending upon certain environmental elements. You know, again, there's a fucking buffet of different reasons why
You know
the
what,
bullshit standards
you know what
exist.
porn women like, Sabrina? Women don't necessarily like the visual porn. The men are, you know, some do. I won't say not all do, but some do. Some get into the visual aspects. Men are more visually driven. But women's version of porn, walk into the romance section of any bookstore. All those damned bodice rippers. Oh my God, I can't stand them. And you know, oh, when he comes and he sees her and rips off her bodice.
But
and, you know, that's the women's version of porn.
I'm gonna be that guy in the room. I've read some stuff just to throw a counter.
I've read some stuff too.
I've read some stuff from some women, and it was intelligently put forward. Blah! It was put forward, I think, in a very intelligent and a very honest context. But long story short, that even that, to many degrees, is a byproduct of the conditioning, that women have been conditioned to believe that sex and emotion
Yes.
have to go together, that it's a part of the love, it's part of this whole framework of, you know, the Madonna, the matriarchal type of stereotype,
Yeah.
versus where men have an absolute fucking disconnect. You know what I mean? And a lot of that, again, was throughout history. Men would have multiple wives,
Yeah.
would breed at multiple places all over the goddamn place, but women, that was absolutely fucking taboo, and it still is today. You know, guys that have multiple partners are heroes. Women who have multiple partners are whores.
Or sluts.
Or sluts. Pick your word.
Depends if you get paid.
And yes, that is actually very well said, Eeyore.
Yeah.
The reality is, it all starts in the mind.
That's
it does.
Amy, by the way. Not, it's the other Amy.
The other Amy.
The other Amy.
Is that like the other white me? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like the other white meat.
The other, yeah, well, that's what I just said.
It's the other Amy.
There's an echo. Echo chamber.
Echo.
Trigger.
Oh, we're triggering that echo. Cancel.
Listen, and I want to make a really important point, because this is where it does start to go sideways, and this, I believe this is important. Sabrina, just because you don't like porn doesn't make you weird or bad. That's a personal choice. Some people like chocolate, some people like vanilla, some people like both. There is no wrong context unless it infringes upon somebody else. In other words, if you're raping beavers in the woods just because you think you're going to get some free artificial vanilla, you might have an issue that you want to talk to somebody about. Now, again, I say that comedically. I know that's not you in this particular case, but the analogy is simply what works for you. You don't need to justify it. And that's part of what goes wrong.
Beavers again.
Absolutely.
Beavers forever. Beavers forever.
Listen, it's an easy go-to. It's an effective,
It's a nice, humor, hilarious.
It's a great show and tell moment. It gets the point across.
Some beavers in the.
Yeah, no, I'm not going back to that. We don't want to overdo it, but again, certain things, they just translate based on our experiences. And yeah, you say you think those books are dumb. That's how you feel. You know what I mean? So again, a context for you obviously would be in this simple element, especially since we live in a society where sex is so polarized and it's so weaponized.
Yes.
That it makes it unfortunately more difficult, because the majority of men, and I don't know the exact numbers, but the majority of men are conditioned in regards to how they look at women sexually.
Yes.
It's starting to change, but there's still a ways to go.
And pornography addiction is a real thing.
Oh yeah.
Or, did you
Listen,
know?
and listen, it just varies. You know, back in the day when, you know, I was playing in, you know, clubs and bars and, you know, doing that fucking dance, I knew guys that would work all week, and then on fucking Saturday night, they would go to the strip club and they would blow their whole fucking paycheck on fucking go-go dancers / strippers. And this is how it was before they could go blow their money online and, you know, jerk off in their closet or whatever the case
And
it is,
get
or
feet
whatever.
pictures off of their
Listen, you know,
OnlyFans.
I respect and I appreciate, but you and I joke
a
about.
lot.
She'll tell you, we joke about this all the time. I get so annoyed at a lot of the movies and
The random
TV
sex scenes, and you're like, oh God, not another
and
one.
here's my analogy. I don't need porn in my science fiction. If I'm looking at something, if I want a science fiction story, if I want a horror story, if I want a comedy, I don't need porn in it.
He'll
Okay.
literally stare at the screen.
If I want to watch porn, I'll watch porn.
He'll stare at the screen saying, what is this adding to the story? Really? Oh my God, they're going full ass here. Oh wow, they're actually showing his full ass. Okay, that wasn't much.
I don't care if it's guys or like, you know, I'm not going to lie. I enjoy naked women more than I enjoy naked guys. I'm not going to apologize for that.
I do too.
I recognize, I fully admit it's a double fucking standard.
No, it's not. I feel
I don't put it upon anybody else. Like, I'm not saying, hey, you all got to get naked and do this, that, or the other thing. It's not who I am. I mean, if you want to.
Women are far more attractive.
You can send your pictures to Lady Shiya,
No.
.pornhub.
Let's not and say we did. I don't need to see all my followers.
What? They don't know about your OnlyFans page?
Oh God! Don't
Oh,
tell
shit.
him. Oh shit! No.
Did I
He's
say
teasing.
that out loud?
He's teasing.
She'll give you special insight.
I'll show you pictures of my crystals. God.
Listen,
Somebody's gonna take this shit seriously.
if we're
Oh my
honest
God.
about it, we live in a world where, you know, listen, some people are into some fucking weird shit. It is what it is. You know, again,
Yeah.
as long as it isn't being forced or carried over on to, you know, those who don't want it.
And that's what it all comes down to.
You know, and listen, Diana, you don't get to fucking complain because you just played
The beaver card.
you just played the ultimate Ace of Spades beaver card. Show us the beaver.
You should put one of the beaver memes up now.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna be coerced like that. I'm gonna hold my ground. It's a testament to other men. Hold the ground.
Oh jeez. But yeah,
But
no.
listen,
I mean, it's just it's our society is so inundated to be about the pursuit of sex, sexual relationships, and they miss out. To me, I feel like on the best parts of a relationship,
And that's in the framework of a relationship.
Yeah.
But again, here it is, and I'm just gonna say it in no uncertain terms.
Okay.
If you don't deal with your sexual elements, you cannot have a relationship with anybody. You can be friends with somebody, but you cannot have a romantic relationship that includes a sexual context if you do not deal with your sexual aspect. You just can't.
Okay.
It's not a well. You know, again, if men do this all the time, they'll get involved in a relationship and then they go cheat on the women.
Yeah.
Why? Because they don't. That it was just a moment. There isn't any foundation. There's no context, and then women are destroyed. Their lives, their egos, their self-esteem, and they're like, what did you do? What did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. Men are conditioned that way. Now, you know, Sabrina had made a comment, you know, well, how do we know? Unfortunately, until you're with somebody, there is no way to know unless, you know, again, they have a behavioral pattern that, like, you know what I mean? You know, somebody's like, hey, yeah, no, that dude there, he's a fuckboy.
That dude's been married 6 times. I think there might be a pattern here.
You know, if he shows up on the first date with a shirt that says "grab the pussy," that might be an indication to run the fuck another way.
Red flag.
I guess unless you're like Diana and you do want him to grab the pussy. Or if you're the guy that likes to send dick pics, maybe you want to grab the dick.
I don't know. Maybe.
Again, any fucking respectable fucking adult shop has got glory holes. Just go there on a Thursday night. You go into the shadows. Just close your eyes, pull your dick out. Trust me, somebody else will show up and take care of it for you.
That being said, I did have one person.
Stop touching those monkeys.
who actually literally had a gallery on her phone of all the dicks that she had been with and pulled it out to show it to me. And I'm like, I really don't want to see this.
Yeah, well, listen, sometimes once you see
like
a
a
thing.
picture of all the dicks that you know.
And Diana, again, all joking aside, I was not suggesting
We're teasing you,
anything.
Diana.
You
Dark humor.
listen, this is what you get for playing the Beaver card.
Dark humor. Yeah, this is
This is a great example. Your privates are exactly that. You are right. They're private. What people do in regards to their sexuality is private, unless you don't want it to be and you want to put it online like Kim Kardashian and start your own clothing line.
Yep.
But with that being said, outside of that framework, it's that uncomfortable zone where, can we, especially as men and women, like I know you women have completely different fucking conversations when I'm not around and when guys are not around in general.
Women talk about
just like men have completely different conversations. Anybody who pretends otherwise is full of shit. So let's just be honest about it. Now, again, there is a baseline, and I will say this again as a man to other men, that's not an excuse and a reason to allow it. So you should call that shit out in the locker rooms. You should call it out in the boardrooms, on the golf fucking courses.
Yes.
Wherever the case may be. I don't give a shit if you're hanging with your friends and cheers and everybody's having a great time. No. It's not an excuse. It's not right. Women have made it very clear. They don't want it. They don't like it. Mm-hmm. And we have to be the ones as men to set the tempo. Okay? It shouldn't have to be them constantly going through, having to prove their point. And yeah, I get it. Sometimes there are women who will exploit a situation, but guess what? NBA stars and baseball players and football players, all the more reason to keep your dick in your pants, you fucking idiots.
By the
all
way,
right?
Happy International Women's Day.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Deadpool moment. Hold on, baby. Hold on, baby.
No ring pops.
Wait. All right, it's International Women's Day. Go ahead. She's going deep. Oh, Jesus.
Don't fart on me.
No.
I'm shit.
Don't try and play it. Oh, my God.
I'm gonna
shit. She's raping me. All right, that's better. Oh, Jesus Christ.
What are you doing?
There's shit falling off the walls.
That's what you get. Karma,
See?
bitch.
International
Karma.
Women's Day. I took one for the team, guys. Okay, so the rest of you guys can sleep tight tonight. Though granted, in this day and age, I'm sure there's some women out there that may be thinking, yeah, tonight's that night. The motherfucker's gonna come home from the bar drunk. He's gonna pass out.
You stick a ring pop up his ass.
Yep. Introduce that motherfucker to his worst or maybe his wettest dream. Because, a lot of you need to come out of the closet. Okay? It's fine. It's 2022, man. It's okay. It really is okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to think less of you. Now, granted, Westboro Baptist Church may end up on your front lawn, but, again, first world problems.
Right.
I don't know what to say. It's kind of, you created the Frankenstein, now you got to deal with it. All right, so Amy, the other Amy, has been craving a certain type of food, but can't figure it out.
Yes.
You can easily get sick during the search. And the same thought of your deal with your own sexuality before getting into a relationship.
That is true.
That's an interesting
analogy.
That's an interesting analogy. Yeah. It's like, right, stick a ring pop up there. Yeah. Balls in hole.
Yep. If you haven't seen Deadpool, then you'll have to watch the first Deadpool movie.
And listen, I thought it was righteous. I mean, I thought it was a great testament. He took one. He was a man about it.
Yep.
Okay. Becca, how you doing, hon? Great to see you as well.
Hey, Becca.
But yes, International Women's Day. I mean, again, we're turning the corner. I mean, again, I listen. I hear it from a lot of women. They're tired. They're pissed off.
Although
a whole lot of things.
I had to do a spell for somebody earlier this week who wanted a money spell because they are still being paid a good $2,000 or more per year less than their male counterparts.
Yeah, listen. That's an argument that's been running for a long time.
Yeah.
That's not a new thing,
No, it's
unfortunately.
not,
But again,
but it's still there.
It's part of the corporate bias system because
So we are turning the corner, but
we have a system that's controlled by old, rich, fucked up white men.
yep,
That's right, I said it.
you did.
Fucking crackers.
Ah,
Yep.
I want cracker. Ah.
Fucking honky crackers. And I'm sorry, if you self-identify as a honky cracker, you know what I mean?
No offense
Sucks to
intended,
be you
because
right
you're
now,
an
man. Listen, it's the wheel of time. To use your analogy. It's just your turn in the shit, man. Every culture, every element, you know, back in the day they were feeding fucking Christians to the lions.
Yeah.
Before that, the Egyptians were beating the shit out of the promised people. And then before that, the fucking Aztecs were just fucking cutting people's hearts out and eating them. So pick your poison.
That's Indiana Jones.
You know what I mean? Historically, you know, the human condition has always been, you know, if it's not the IRA bombing something or a jihad on a fucking artist because they didn't like a fucking cartoon strip. Okay?
Yeah.
Or if it's blowing up an abortion clinic because somehow you're concerned what somebody else is doing with their vagina. Or any number of the horrendous analogies that you know, and listen, it's enough to fucking make even the best of people fucking insane. So, you know, I empathize with the context that a lot of people are just like, why should we even give a shit? They're going off the deep end. They're just, I'm gonna fuck whoever I want. I'm gonna stick this needle in my eye. I don't know what's in it, but we're going for a fucking ride. You know, and
Hey, motherfuckers.
you know, well, listen. Sometimes, you know, versus, you know, falling into a black hole of fucking depression, you know, people will slingshot. They'll do insane, you know, crazy type of things in desperation of just trying to feel alive.
Well, I think what it really comes down to is that we, especially we empaths, genuinely want connection. And sometimes we look for it through sexual ways. Other times we're looking at it to connect in other different ways. But we've got to find ways to connect that don't put us in compromised positions, I guess. It's about
Straight the numbers just to defend ourselves against the insanity. You know, sometimes that is the simplest context. You know, working through the things that we need to deal with, whatever the case. You know, again, sometimes there's reasons and sometimes, you know, shit just happens that doesn't make any sense and it has no discernible rationale or reason that we can see in the moment. Sometimes we'll get lucky and be blessed to, you know, get that retrospect or hindsight, but especially, again, back to the, you know, the original subject, especially within the framework of relationships, you know, it is, in my opinion, in my experience, better to walk away from an element versus forcing it. It's not easy, okay? It's not pretty, but there are certain aspects, and I talked again, you know, action versus words.
Yep.
And Amy asks, what's the best way to not be controlled as an empath? There's only one real thing that empaths can do is to remove the emotional context.
Well, for me, it's being self-aware. I mean, you don't necessarily have to remove the emotional context.
Well, you do in the moment.
Yeah, like not reacting emotionally.
Because, and again, and I just say this honestly, in my experience, if you don't remove the emotional contact in the moment, whatever the context you're dealing with, you will always have the blowback.
Or what I call the nose ring. Kind of like, you see these big bulls. I mean, giant 2-ton bulls being led around by this tiny little ring in their nose. Okay, and that's kind of like what I see as an empath is that, you know, if we leave access to that nose ring, their emotional nose ring, then somebody can grab that little nose ring and lead us around anywhere. Okay, and if we, like you're saying, you're removing the emotional context, you're removing that nose ring, you're removing their ability to pull the heartstrings.
And you're right. It does. Part of it is that self-awareness. I mean, that is not wrong.
But I think we're saying the same thing in different ways.
Well, again, it's the variation on the theme because in many ways it depends on the aspect and to put it bluntly and simply, where the vulnerability really lies. Is it a aspect that is reflective of a romantic or a sexual element? Is it reflective of a guilt or caretaking framework, as I like to refer to it? Some of us are people pleasers. We continually feel compelled to help, to take care of, or more so fix people, which tends to be problematic. Again, it's a thin line because there's nothing wrong with helping people. There's nothing wrong, especially when somebody needs help, to do things, to guide them, whatever the case may be. But again,
you're able.
It is that thin line, whereas now, if we're trying to force our perceptions, our morality, our perception,
that's a deep rabbit hole.
Where even if we're right, if the other person doesn't see it, it is literally matter and antimatter coming together, and it is catastrophic.
I had a reading earlier in the week, I think it was last week, but where somebody was like, hey, I'm really hung up on trying to help my best friend, and I told my best friend that they need to watch this video because it was very transformative to me, and don't bother talking to me until you watch this video. And I'm like, you know what? How is that context any different than somebody waving a Bible in your face? Just because you've had a personal transformation, you can't force somebody else to. You can offer the help, you can put it out there, but you need to offer it without strings and an open palm, not shove it in people's face, not on like a dick pic.
Well, that's one way to put it. That's a great analogy. Yeah. Can't argue with that one.
Proselytization is proselytization, even when it's well-meaning, because I guarantee you the Bible thumper is well-meaning too, thinking they're going to save your damn soul.
Yeah, well, and again, especially when you have the framework of the element of religious dogma, and we'll just call it that, for lack of a better way to put it, and that's not to criticize anybody's belief, again, unless you're a Scientologist, fuck you.
Take 10,000 years somewhere else.
But to respond directly to what Amy was saying, says she's stuck in a situation where kids are being used to control you. Now,
that's tough.
That's a tough one. And I'm sure that there are specific little details and variables, and I don't want to put you on the spot and say, hey, put that out publicly, because again, as a parent, I know I wouldn't be comfortable doing that, so I don't want to put you on the spot, so I'll try and approach it from a more generic context. First and foremost, simple rule, okay? And again, I say this as a parent. Whatever is the least damaging and or best case scenario for the children has to be the go-to.
Yeah.
It's a shit sandwich, as I like to call it. Doesn't mean it's fair, doesn't mean it's right, and it doesn't make you wrong. But if we're going to have the honest conversation, and especially in the framework when you're talking about adults versus children, the children always, in my opinion, again, as a parent and as a professional, as a counselor, fucking is a human being, children have to be first.
Yeah.
They have to be. Okay, because everything else is collateral damage from that point on. So no matter how you slice it, you're going to be fucking dealing with it one way or another. Now, without knowing the details and without, again, having to get into them, obviously, and you just hit it, thank you, it means sacrifice. There's going to be elements of mental and emotional trauma.
The best thing that you can do is try to
sympathize and empathize with
yourself emotionally, but there's certain things that you're not,
which is easier said than done.
You're not going to be able to completely block that off as long as the kids are
now
something that can be held over your head.
I will say this to you to give you hope okay, and to give you a real hope. The situation, for whatever it is only temporary, because time is the great equalizer. It's not, again, fair. It's not the best of the scenarios, but it is the light, the proverbial light at the end of the fucking tunnel, that this type of thing only flies so far. As children get older, they will see and recognize it. And trust me when I say the damage on the other end of the scale for the other person pulling the strings is going to be far more catastrophic.
Yep.
Far more catastrophic, okay? The best case scenario is you have to, again, you have to be the adult in the room, because it sounds like you're having a child deal with the framework of children. And that's how I usually refer to these type of situations in these types of environments where you have a dysfunctional context between two parents, one of them trying to do the right thing for the children, and then the other one is still a fucking child.
And I've seen it both
and will
both
manipulate
ways.
Children in a framework with no fucking concern about, again, the collateral damage or the elements. You know, listen, again, my sympathy to you. I know it doesn't mean much, but again, as a parent and having lived through elements of this with my son's mother when she was fucking in her downward spiral, the best thing, the only thing that you can really truthfully do if you want to give your child the best, your children the best framework, is you have to take the high ground. Yeah, listen, 4 years ago by before you know. It's a shit sandwich, I get it. But everything else is just so much more problematic. And it is literally like playing Russian roulette. Everything that you try and force the agenda on, regardless of you being right, theoretically will expand the damage zone deeper, farther, and longer.
Which in sex might be a good
Listen,
thing, but in other things,
beautiful
not so much.
statement. Make that your mantra. And I listen. I went through the same thing. When they're and I'll quote you. They are smart enough to know the truth, but I refuse to paint him in a bad light. They will have to come to their own truth about it all on their own. Absolutely. Now, again, that doesn't mean that certain elements of things, and I'll just give a couple of examples of analogies, okay? All right? If he's a psychopathic rapist, let your children know. Yeah. You have every right to cross that particular line and paint them whatever fucking color you want. Context makes a difference. Now, if he's just a fucking narcissistic asshole who's emotionally abusive, I'm not saying that makes it okay, but you understand what I'm saying. We have to, again, as parents, adults, we have to look at the nature of an element. Are there patterns? To what degree are we talking about? You know, there's a difference between, a shitty asshole who cheats on you and, talks shit about you versus a guy that lures, small children in playgrounds and murders them and buries them in the backyard. And I know that's an extreme analogy, but it's the only way that I can fucking explain it. Yeah, ding ding on number 2. Again, it's a no-win scenario. I use the Star Trek analogy. It's the Kobayashi Maru.
Yep.
Okay, it is a no-win scenario. The best that you can do is protect your children. And it sounds like you understand it. So, props to you, because most people don't get that. Their natural reaction is to take the bait. And they'll fight. Sometimes just for the sake of fucking fighting. And you're right. In his world, you're going to be the villain. But guess what?
That's what happens.
Then be the best fucking villain you can be. Do it in style. Get a Catwoman suit. Okay? Get a fucking whip. Now, I say that jokingly, and it doesn't mean that you have to do evil shit, but guess what? That's just somebody else's perspective.
Yeah.
Everybody around us has got their own fucking perspective about everything. What does it really matter? All that matters is your children.
Yeah.
Because they are they're your world. You know what I
I'll
mean?
tell a little story, okay?
A little
A
story.
little story. The
Okay,
short
Mommy.
version of the little story.
Can I have cookie?
You can have.
Okay, tell a story.
But, you know, basically, years ago, I had to cut off my narcissistic father, okay? Because he was constantly causing problems, blah, blah, blah. Long story, narcissistic asshole. When I did that, he made me the villain to my entire family, okay? Just, what was it, a month ago, my aunt reached out to me, and this is 5 years, 6 years after I cut him off completely. And after a year after my mother died, and I didn't get to see her for the last 5 years before she died, okay, comes back and says, Shiya, you were right. We are sorry. And I have some of your mother's jewelry we would like to send to you. His colors have come out. The truth comes out eventually.
Yep.
No, and I
Not a
never-
question of if, it's just a question
And
of
I was
when.
the person, when he painted me bad, I was like, people would come and I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. I'm not going to do a lawsuit. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not, you know, going to speak ill, doing the same thing.
Here's
I'm
another-
gonna walk away from it.
Here's a little, you know, insight. I can't guarantee that this will be a case that it'll work for you, but it did work for me to certain degrees. When I stopped fighting certain elements of it and stopped playing into it, aka stop paying attention, because a lot of times this is just to point you, you know, to poke you, to fuck with you. So when you remove that dynamic, narcissists tend to, there'll be 2 degrees. They'll escalate a little bit to force the agenda, to get reaction, to get somebody to pay attention.
To see if they can poke the
But
bear.
more times than not, it's just a question of how long it takes for them to get bored.
Yep.
And then they move on. And then guess what? All this shit now will just go up in smoke for the illusion that it is. And then, okay, then you'll be in position to deal with what has to be dealt with when, you know, the fallout happens with him and the kids.
Yeah.
You know, and listen, I watched this dynamic play out in my own personal family. And my father burnt every goddamn bridge between his children and everyone in his family and died alone, literally in a pile of his own shit. Okay? That was karma. It is what it is. You know, listen, for some people, this world will never be right. And there's nothing that you or I or anybody else can do about it. Doesn't mean we take joy in it. Sometimes we should celebrate it. I mean, again, depending upon, you know,
I'll tell you what, it felt fucking good.
how
to
fucked
hear
up the
truth
context
out.
is.
Yeah, it felt fucking great for me. I mean, it was kind of
Yeah, listen,
it was very
Truth is truth.
very cathartic for me.
Because it does. It inspires. It says that there's hope, that not every piece of shit scumbag, that there's at least some fucking modicum of balance against all the horrible, you know, every time, you know, a child is killed, you know, every time some fucked up piece of fuckery goes down, you know, you have to, at least I believe, we have to hang on to some element of the positive, of the hope that, you know, that it balances out, that as Pixie said earlier, it comes out of a fucking wash.
You know, and
you're right. Listen, it will
hard.
divide and split, but here's also what happens, and this is just, you know, nature. What happens from those elements will grow new elements, better, healthier, stronger. Okay, it is. Unfortunately, it's part of the cycle. It's not, again, pretty. And, you know, really, you know, unfortunately, it's not a reflection of you. You know what I mean? Granted, you know, we all have our parts to play, and it's not meant to be judgmental or anything. You know your world for what it is. You know your kids better than anybody else. So it would be bullshit of me to try, or anybody else to try and tell you otherwise. However, again, as a parent to another, I can say to you honestly, having experienced it, having watched other people go the other route, and it always plays out in the same way. That type of damage, that type of bullshit, those illusions can only be maintained for so long. So it doesn't matter where in the pattern does it fall apart. It's just that it will fall apart. And then the best thing you can do, well, this is the only other thing that I can suggest, and again, some
empaths love to blame
listen,
themselves.
but yeah, as an empath, we all tend to blame ourselves. We spin in our heads. But here's the other thing too. Some wounds take longer to heal than others.
Yes.
The only other thing that I can, again, honestly say is, to the best of your ability, distract yourself. Find other things to put in your life. It doesn't mean that you don't care. It doesn't mean that one thing isn't important versus another. But here's the simplest and truest analogy, and just remind yourself of this. You're no good to your kids if you're no good to yourself.
Yeah.
So if you don't get your shit together and take care of the element, regardless of whatever that translates to, okay? It's a question that, again, only you can really answer. You can explore different things. You can talk to people, get their insight, get their opinions, their suggestions. Hey, this works for me. You know what I mean? Anything. At least, again, if it's from an honest and a pure context, is okay. The explorations, how we learn. Oh my God, you don't need to apologize. You didn't rabbit trail the show. This is what the show is about.
See, it's about, yeah.
The show is all the different elements of the things that sometimes we can't do on the lives. We talk about the music. I premiere the music. I'm going to close out with Blue Jazz again for anybody who didn't get to see it, because it's not actually on YouTube for people.
It will be on.
It will be after the podcast. But again, so this is what it's about. My podcast is like, I'm not some fucked up influencer that's going to be like, hey, buy some of my products so you can be cool like me. No. I believe, as Shiya believes, that communication, we need to talk. We need to talk about the things that are going on in the world. We need to talk about the things that are happening to us, how we feel, how things got fucked up, why this, that, the other thing, whatever the case may be. And all the rabbit trails, they're all part of the same Shire, to use
part of the human condition.
To use a Tolkien analogy. We share the same world. So simple logic says, if each of us can make everyone else's life around us just a little bit better, then by default, it's better for everyone. And, and that builds upon itself geometrically. Again, strength in numbers is not just a hooky saying. It's a philosophy. It's a concept that actually works. It has worked since the beginning of time. Okay? We're not the only species to use it.
No.
Primates use it. Wolves use it. Ants fucking use it. Okay? It is one of the most powerful gifts that we have, is our ability to interact, to build upon our strengths, to compensate for our weaknesses, to take care, to love, as empathic beings. A kind of final thought. A good friend of ours was talking online and had shared, I guess you could say, a thought that somebody expressed in regards to addiction, and how addicts get a really kind of shitty stick in the deal, that they get stigmatized, they get left in jails and fucked up places, and we've really kind of demonized the whole thing and ignored the reality. And this is really becoming, I think, an uncomfortable reality, is that every one of us is a fucking addict to some degree or another. By default, by definition, we are sentient beings. We feel things, we taste things, we like something, and when we like something, we want more of it. And sometimes wanting more of it becomes a bad thing, and sometimes the thing that makes us feel good is actually wrong and fucked up and dangerous for us. So it all gets
eventually
confused.
Make us feel bad.
Right. So everybody's got different reasons that brings them to their different elements.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It isn't somebody's fault if they spent the first 13 years of their lives being raped by their stepfather, and the only thing that they can do to keep from killing themselves is became a drug addict? That doesn't reflect them as a person. It reflects them trying to survive through a shitty situation. So we're all, and I say this in a generic context, I'm not blaming you, anybody out there personally, but we as a society have just gotten too comfortable with just sloughing it off. Oh, well, here's another drug to, make you get up in the morning and make you go to sleep at night, and again, people's lives are just flushed away. So the analogy, the context of the conversation was, when we talk, when we communicate, we learn. I talk about this redundantly as well, too. What was magic 100 years ago is fucking science now. Okay, science, think about that. What was superstition, magic, is now fucking science. Brother John, I'm with you as well, too. Ending the war on drugs is fucking stupid. Monica, how you doing, hon? Great to see you. But here it is. You don't ever have to apologize for talking about what's going on. That's what this is about. That's what we do. We take it to different degrees. We do, paid tarot readings. We do counseling services. We do, professional music. We do weddings. We do all of it because we have to survive in the world too.
Yeah.
But we continue to work on creating
community. Not
just a community, but a middle ground. You know what I mean? That not everything is about money. So people can come out here on the Tuesday night podcast and we hang out, we talk about things. Sometimes they're good things, sometimes they're bad things, sometimes about beaver asshole. That's how we're doing, Monica. Okay? We're equivalating life, liberty, and the pursuit of beaver asshole.
I'm beginning to think I need to get you a beaver suit.
Yeah, that's my son, okay?
Here comes the monkey.
This is what I sacrificed all these years and everything for, is for my son basically to tell me that I need to wear a beaver suit. Thank you for sharing, Indigo Monkey. Do you have any other thoughts to express to the viewing audience tonight? Ah!
Ooh. What are we eating?
Ooh.
Wings!
I don't like fucking wings.
Wings.
Fries. And I was going to ask you if you want a veggie burger.
Monica says hi. She says, do you want to come live with her and take care of her?
No.
Do we want veggie burgers?
Not today, Monica. But I'm gonna auction them off soon, so get ready to. You can bid on them.
We'll start the bid at 2 bits.
Yeah.
I got the look for that. Do we want veggie burgers?
Where would you rather hot dogs?
Oh, I don't know. We'll figure it out afterwards. But listen, thank you all again, and listen seriously. Amy, thank you for taking the time. And really, truly. It takes strength to be able to share things that are not pleasant, that are uncomfortable, that are awkward, painful. Okay? Don't let anybody ever fucking convince you otherwise. And this is to everybody. Okay? It takes more strength to be honest than it is to just fucking avoid a thing or to bullshit your way through it. Hey, everything's fine. Right there. Okay? It's an illusion. Okay? Real strength comes from honesty. Real strength comes from dealing with the shitty, horrible fucking things that get passed down the line. And many times they're not. We have no control over it. They're not reflective of you or me or anyone else. You know what I mean? And, sometimes it gets convoluted. Like, again, I'll make, off-color jokes about this, that, or the other thing. But some things, but listen, I truly mean it. And I will close out tonight. I will say it again. All you guys out there that feel compelled to send unsolicited dick pics to women, you need to get out of the closet and embrace your homosexuality. It's okay. Just go out and suck the cock. Get it over with. Take your medicine, man. Okay, just do it.
I love you.
Okay, because the rest of the world will love you for it. Women will be happy. They won't get any more fucking random dick pics that they don't want to see.
Absolutely.
You'll be happy because somebody will finally be blowing you. You know what I mean? It's a win-win situation. You don't have to worry about getting anybody pregnant because guess what? 2 guys can't get each other pregnant. Yay. So you don't have to worry about fucking having to make child payment. It's cool. Maybe you got to deal with a little bit of, 5 o'clock shadow. I don't know. Maybe that's your thing, but it's cool. But listen, just embrace the concept that if you send dick pics unsolicited 2 women.
Yeah, might be gay.
No, there is no might be, okay? You need to come out of the closet, man. It's cool. But you gotta accept it. Otherwise, it's just never gonna work. You're gonna go fucking crazy. You're gonna find yourself in a dark room somewhere with a pit, telling some fucking poor homeless woman that it's got to put the lotion on her skin or it gets the hose or some shit like that. You know what I mean? That's where this path leads.
Are you just saying that because I was putting lotion on my hands earlier?
Not really, but hey, if the lotion fits, rub it in.
Ooh, baby.
Listen, thank you again to everybody, and I'm going to close out for anybody who didn't see it. I'm going to play Blue Dreams, the completed master track with Matt Brown on vocals. It will be available on YouTube, so please, again, like and subscribe, share, and with that, have a great evening. Love you all. I'm such a cheeky one. Oh. Ooh. No, I'll click whatever fucking buttons I want. Peace out.
I saw the writing on the wall, a rushed and frantic little scribble, the taste of sweet red and the scent of a cheap cigar. It lingers on her cherry red lips. Slowly the room turns, but we dance away the night. The feelings that I get when I hold you tight. The fever dream becomes reality. Above a chandelier, in the reflection of the glass, 1,000 figures swaying like the leaves in the wind. The touch of your hand in my own, it feels like I'm lost to this world. I can't let go of the electricity between us. They warned me about you, but I don't care. I'm in love with you. Slowly the room turns, the days fly and the nights run away as I hold you tight. This feels like a dream, but the fever dream is a reality. I saw the writing on the wall. It was such a lifetime ago. It was a warning to the world about you, but I didn't listen. These old eyes don't see like they used to see you. You took my life when you took my heart. But I'll never forget you, and the fever dreams remind me of you.